Welcome to another edition of the Weekly Digest, a government information agency program that keeps you informed on what the administration has been doing to create a better environment for citizens. I'm your host, Ursula Ramdale. Thank you for joining us. In this week's presentation for the period July 6 to 12, 2013, the 4th Building Expo is an excellent initiative to encourage Guyanese to build for themselves. First rice crop for 2013 surpasses target, and Guyana closer to being able to test for animal diseases. The 4th ever International Building Exposition continued to depict the ways and means for Guyanese towards building homes for themselves. Building Expo 2013 at the Guyana National Stadium was slated for 3 days. The 4th International Building Exposition was declared open by Acting President and Prime Minister Samuel Hines under the theme Consolidating Partnerships for Sustainable Development.
As our economy continued growing, more support could be provided for housing from our own funds and from assistance of the IDB and the CDB and others. For example, in low-income scheme services that were developed. Soon also middle and upper income schemes were being developed at Eccles, Diamond Grove, Parfait Harmony, and a large housing area with all levels, all income levels developed at Touchet.
PM Hines observed that housing and construction has been the leading sector in Guyana in the past several years, providing focus on transforming the landscape across Guyana. He observed that as Guyana's economy continues to grow, more help would become available for Guyanese to continue to build their own homes. Minister of Housing and Water Irfan Ali noted that a lot of investments from the public and private sectors have been channeled into the 3-day event.
It is these people who forms the alliance and the partnership with the Ministry of Housing and Water. It is these people that forms the alliance with the government in ensuring that the well-meaning policies of the government, the strong housing program of the government, is implemented in an effective manner and ensuring that the right resources and materials are available to bring meat to this product of housing.
Meanwhile, Chairman of the Private Sector Commission, Ronald Webster, stressed on the increase in mortgage credit now available for new home owners.
What is really impressive is the increase in mortgage credit to the private sector from 27.3 billion in 2009 to 45.7 billion in 2012, a 67% increase, or an average of 17% per year. That's no small feat.
The expo saw participation from international companies from Trinidad and Tobago, Venezuela, USA, Canada, and Barbados. With the participation of regional and international exhibitors, the expo provided investment opportunities and created more for networking between and among local, regional, and international businesses. The first rice crop for 2013 has officially ended with a record yield of 263,528 metric tons of rice from a total of 405,428 metric tons of paddy, significantly surpassing the target of 206,000 tons.
Over the past few years, rice production has been significantly increasing, with production recorded at 365,469 metric tons in 1999, the highest recorded then, followed by the 2010 production of 361,527 metric tons, 402,000 tons in 2011, and 422,000 tons for 2012.
We have a target for this crop of 81,000. So we are at about 93% completion of the planting phase. So far, Region 4 have completed their planting, so all of the land that is targeted for Region 4 have been planted. Region 6 is also close to completion with 98%. Region 3 is 97%. Region 2 is 93%. And Region 5, which lags a bit behind every crop, is about 88% completed.
Over 81,628 hectares, which has a yield of about 201,000 tons of paddy, were sown for the 2013 forest crop as compared to 78,000 tons for the forest crop of last year. The yield per hectare for this crop was 5 tons.
And there is every indication that the second crop will be at least as successful as the first crop. Then we expect that Guyana could exceed a production of 500,000 tons, which will be a remarkable achievement for the industry.
Region 5 continues to be the leading region as it produced 101,262 tons, followed by Region 6 with 67,508 tons, Region 2 with 52,391 tons, Region 3 with 29,137 tons, and Region 4 with 13,231 tons. Region 4 was the highest yielding region, Cane Grove Mahaica, with 6.4 tons per hectare, followed by Regions 2 and 3 with an average of 5.4 tons per hectare, Region 5 with 4.9 tons, and Region 6 with 4.5 tons.
The Ministry of Culture, Youth and Sport has been working steadfastly on the promotion of music for the youth population. This venture has been taken a step further with the Pan Minors Music Literacy Program.
Now in its fourth year, the Minors Music Literacy Program will be teaching 175 children from Regions 4, 5, 6, and 10 the art of pan music. This program is also seen as a feeder for the Panorama Steel Pan competition and is sponsored by Republic Bank.
I'm very happy that so many persons have indicated an interest in learning pan. We want to see this grow. It's not just a one-off opportunity, but we want you to participate in your school bands. We want you to come back when we have the Mashramani competition and play with us. And we are creating other opportunities for you to play. During Christmas time, other festivities, we want to have pan music out there. So we'll create opportunities for you to play. That's what we want to do. We feel that music and learning music is a very important thing. We have seen in other countries, like in our neighboring country in Venezuela, that they have been using music to get into the communities and help with positive social development.
This program was developed in 2010 and started off with 125 children receiving training. When the Panorama Steel Pan competition started in 2009, only 3 school bands participated. However, with the introduction of the Pan Minors Music Literacy Program in the 2013 Steel Pan competition, a preliminary category had to be created to allow the number of school bands to participate. Republic Bank has also been the sponsor of the Panorama Steel Pan competition for the past 5 years.
Republic Bank is very pleased at the opportunity to yet again support Guyana's youth and to help in the sustenance and the resurgence of the steel pan art form in Guyana. We wish to thank the Ministry of Culture as well for their collaboration with us, and we wish to thank you, our participants, for your attendance, and we trust that you will be here to take the opportunity to learn as much as you can, because as you would know, for the past 5 years, Republic Bank has been sponsoring the Panorama Steel Band competition as well.
The Pan Minors Music Literacy Program is a part of the ministry's summer camps, which is targeting over 10,000 children home on vacation. The camps will be held in all 10 administrative regions and touches on areas such as civic education, physical education and sports, and the teaching of indigenous languages.
The Amila Falls Hydropower project will bring benefits and the avoidance of a significant import bill associated with fuel for electricity generation. It will also remove the risk of price volatility, particularly regarding oil imports. Minister Singh said the Amaila Falls project is a historic one which will convert Guyana from being entirely dependent on fossil fuels to become independent on renewable energy. This will in turn bring back benefits and the avoidance of a significant import bill associated with fuel for electricity generation. He also pointed out that hydropower in Guyana will see a reduction or almost elimination of the risk of exchange rate, and it will remove the risk of price volatility, particularly regarding oil.
The reality of Guyana today, and this is a reality that has been in there for some years now, the reality is that every investor into Guyana or in Guyana has to factor in the cost of redundant power, backup power. Because a person operating a manufacturing line, for example, can't afford the interruption of that line, or else he loses the whole batch of products on that line. A service provider that requires electricity to provide a service, whether he's a call center or some other service provider that utilizes electricity, telephone company, whatever, must have a bank, insurance company, must have uninterrupted power.
Minister Singh emphasized that more affordable power would mean greater investment, job creation, increased profitability, which would bring fiscal benefits, improved capacity to pay wages with more competition. Ultimately, citizens' net disposable incomes would be increased. Speaking on the environmental dimension, Minister Singh noted that with Guyana's commitment to the LCDS, the Amaila project as a single investment moves Guyana from a country fully dependent on fossil fuels to one fully dependent on a renewable resource, water. More of the Weekly Digest after these messages. Stay tuned.
Pensioners are to receive a 25% increase in their pension, or $12,500 monthly, with effect from May 1. Over 42,500 pensioners are to benefit from this increase. Government will also provide each pensioner with assistance of up to $20,000 per annum to pay GPL for their electricity charges.
The 2013 national budget grants exemptions from personal income tax to first-time homeowners, whose taxable income goes towards paying interest on mortgage of up to $30 million from a commercial bank or building society.
Guyana has received the much-deserving United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization FAO award for having attained the Millennium Development Goal number 1 and the goal set by the 1996 World Food Summit for halving the absolute number of hungry people by 2050. At an award ceremony in Italy, FAO's Director General Dr. Jose Grazio da Silva said that Guyana had achieved by year-end 2012, 3 years in advance, the target for the number of undernourished people. The government of Guyana has pledged to continue investing in agriculture, expanding safety nets and social assistance programs, along with enhancing income-generating activities to improve the food situation. This is testimony to the efforts of the government to ensure a better life for all Guyanese.
The Guyana Veterinary Diagnostic Laboratory that will have the capability to test, detect, and diagnose diseases that may affect animals and the public's health is 45% complete and is expected to be commissioned in approximately 4 months.
Minister of Agriculture Dr. Leslie Ramsamy recently visited the worksite of the Veterinary Laboratory and expressed satisfaction with the progress seen.
Given the fact that this work started just about when the rainy season was starting also, I think that I have to be reasonably satisfied that we are actually close to halfway, finishing with the construction at just before halfway point in the contract time. And now that we are entering the dry period, keeping our fingers crossed that we will have a relatively dry period, I am confident that the work will be completed on time.
This US $2.5 million investment, which is located at Monrepo, East Coast, Demerara, will be equipped to test for bacteria and diseases that affect animals, including brucellosis, leptospirosis, and tuberculosis. In general, it is expected to strengthen the overall health system and advance the livestock sector, while increasing production for local consumption and export.
This lab, however, now that we're getting through the construction, is critical. One, because Guyana wants to consolidate our food security, and therefore animal health is very important.
We see this facility as very important in supporting the work of our farmers and in us being able to give definitive diagnoses for a range of things that would happen to animals from time to time, and to be able to support those farmers in their bid to control, for example, diseases and pests and parasites and organisms which in general reduce their productivity.
The laboratory is sitting in what was previously the Animal Health Lab, which was barely ever used and was not functioning as a full-fledged lab. The old facility was demolished and redesigned. Construction, which is expected to last for 8 months, is now close to the 4-month mark.
The government of China continues to support Guyana, with the latest form of assistance being made to the Guyana Fire Service in the form of 10 fire trucks.
Government has been making strides to modernize the Guyana Fire Service by providing it with modern equipment and tools. Minister of Home Affairs Clement Rohi on July 11 accepted the keys to 10 fire trucks from officials of the Chinese government, along with 400 complete firefighting suits that will further boost the service's firefighting capabilities.
The Ministry of Home Affairs is very appreciative of this kind gesture. It is another concrete manifestation of the friendly relations between the People's Republic of China and the Republic of Guyana. These relations that we are now benefiting from will obviously go a very far way in enhancing the capacity of the Guyana Fire Service in many respects.
Minister Rohi thanked the government of China for the donation. Chinese ambassador to Guyana, Mr. Zhang Limin, alluded to the good relations that exist between the two countries. He also expressed the hope that the donation would help in enhancing the capacity of the firefighting unit. The trucks and the firefighting suits will be distributed to the various fire stations around the country.
During Cabinet's last meeting at the Office of the President, His Excellency President Donald Ramotar and ministers of the government discussed several issues of national concern. The media was subsequently briefed on Cabinet's deliberations.
Cabinet has given its no objection to several contracts, 7 of which are for the security sector. The contracts approved will allow for construction works in the Camp Street Prison, construction of an upper flat for the Brig Dam Police Station, and construction of a training facility for the Guyana Fire Service at Leonora Regions 3. The procurement of a 500 horsepower boat for the Guyana Police Force, 2 ambulances for the Guyana Fire Service, and spares for the Guyana Defence Force Bell 206 helicopter are also among the contracts. Government is of the view that Parliament's recess will be welcomed if the opposition continues its conduct in the National Assembly.
Members of Parliament will be returning for the next sitting on the 18th of July 2013. Expectations are not high that there would be any difference in the proceedings from that that's been going on in the immediate past. A review of media reports, press releases, did not enthuse Cabinet. The failure of GPL's management APNU engagement, Cabinet felt was ominous. Were the general conduct of opposition MPs at parliamentary committees, hearings, to continue to be replicated during National Assembly sittings, the recess would be a welcome respite. This is a view held by quite a few observers of the agony of Parliament and what it has become.
Government has noted the A Partnership for National Unity's abandonment of its planned meeting with the management of the Guyana Power and Light.
Cabinet noted with apprehension the abandonment by APNU of the planned meeting with the management of the Guyana Power and Light, Inc. In the budget debate in April 2012, that's last year, the government of Guyana and the opposition APNU met at the office of the president and hammered out an agreement that would have seen a reduction in the electricity subsidy provided to Linden Region 10 and consequently a rise in the electricity tariff in Linden. The history of what subsequently played out is known to all of us. But the reference here today is not really to APNU's historic abandonment and its about-face on that agreement. The reference here is to the linkage then and the linkage now between subsidies and tariff in the power sector.
Noted as well was APNU's approval of the Linden electricity subsidy against its opposition to the GPL subsidy.
Contempt, political intrigue were obviously overriding factors, overriding considerations that govern the opposition's behavior and choices in 2013, leading them to reduce the subsidies. Obviously, the opposition, APNU AFC, felt that their continued support and acceptance of the subsidy tariff logic in Linden in 2013 would be overlooked when a reduction in GPL subsidy and an increase in tariff for the rest of Guyana would be caused by them.
Cabinet's preliminary review is that Building Expo 2013 was excellently planned and well executed. The fourth International Building Exposition ran the theme Consolidating Partnerships for Sustainable Development at the Guyana National Stadium at Providence from July 5 to 7.
And now for perspectives with Dr. Prem Mizier.
The U.S. human trafficking policy is a product of religious leaders, neoconservatives, and abolitionist feminists. Michael Horowitz from the Hudson Institute and the Coalition of Evangelicals advocated for the legislation that became the Trafficking Victims Protection Act. The legislation received approval from the U.S. House of Representatives and Senate and was signed into law by President Clinton on October 28, 2000. This law's aims are to prevent human trafficking overseas, protecting victims of traffickers, and prosecuting traffickers. A singular dimension of this U.S. law has to do with the U.S. demand on overseas countries to enact preventive measures against sex trafficking. The U.S. trafficking law, as a matter of policy, requires the State Department to effect an annual assessment of other countries' anti-trafficking efforts and to evaluate each country on the basis of its procedures undertaken to combat trafficking. The U.S. in this way ranks each country's progress to end trafficking. The United States keeps awarding itself a Tier 1 status, meaning it is making sufficient efforts to end trafficking. Countries that do not do well on the basis of this subjective U.S. judgment are labeled Tier 2 or Tier 3. Tier 3 countries could receive sanctions from the United States and are seen as countries that may be more concerned about paying no attention to this U.S. law. Some recent Tier 3 countries are Cuba, North Korea, Venezuela, Indonesia, India, United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, Lebanon, Sudan, Qatar, Turkey, etc. These are countries not comfortable with U.S. imperialism, where NLO in 2000 argued that the United States wants other countries to emulate its practices to end human trafficking. It appears as if the U.S. wants to be God in all these matters. Trends in Organized Crime, a journal in one of its articles in 2006 noted that the U.S. State Department's justifications for its ranking of countries not meeting minimum standards to end human trafficking are deficient, as some standards are biased and the report fails to explain how these standards are applied, thereby reducing the report's integrity, or should I say scientific integrity. Nevertheless, the State Department's annual trafficking reports for countries, as deficient as they are peddled to push foreign governments to execute measures to end human trafficking. It would serve the U.S. well to first effect some house cleaning domestically, as the problem of about 200,000 children or even more today in the United States being at risk of trafficking annually has begun to worsen. In other words, the numbers are increasing. And instead of sitting in judgment of other countries' issues and concerns on human trafficking, there may be better outcomes if all the affected countries work in unison to stamp out this evil trade. Thank you.
And with those features, we have come to the end of this edition of the Weekly Digest. But before we go, here's a recap of the highlights. The 4th Building Expo was an excellent initiative to encourage Guyanese to build for themselves. The first rice crop for 2013 surpasses the target, and Guyana is closer to being able to test for animal diseases. Please note that Weekly Digest and other Government Information Agency programs can be found on our website www.gina.gov.gy, or you can send us your comments and suggestions at gina@gina.gov.gy. Join us again next week as we highlight more of government's programs and policies which continue to enhance the lives of Guyanese. I'm Ursula Ramdale. Stay tuned for your regular programming. Goodbye.